today I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Kester Fielding, who's VP Global Marketing Operations at Bacardi Global Brands. So welcome, Kester.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be with you. Good to see you.
Thank you. So Kester, you've worked, I've mentioned you're now working obviously for Bacardi. I know before that you were at Diageo. So you've worked for two enormous businesses in a category that is subject to substantial regulation around the world as to where, when, and to whom you're allowed to advertise. And given these limitations, you've always been at the sort of forefront of using non-advertising communications and communication channels to talk to your target audience. Does this mean that you've got less data available to you? I mean, how does it kind of work? How do you assess these things?
Well, we do have less data available than we would do on digital media, for instance, for things like point of sale or for experiential, which most businesses like ours, certainly the ones I've worked for and now work for, spend a significant amount of, as a percentage of our total A&P on non-media, which I think may be different from other CPG and other companies, just in terms of the limitations we have in some marketplaces, not only for when and where we advertise, but also how and what we say about things about our brands. The limitations both from a creative and a media perspective there. So when you compare the millisecond by millisecond data that you'll have from the various digital platforms that we collect, and we have in a media performance dashboard that we've put together ourselves for the use of all the primos, as we call them in Bacardi. So people have that on their desktop to look at when they're running their media campaigns. Things such as experiential, so events or sponsorships, or point of sale or advocacy. So when you have a number of people going out into the trade advocates to persuade bartenders to have the great drinks that we have and how to serve them properly, there is naturally less data for that. So if I take one example, we've been doing a lot of work with marketing mix modeling over the past 5 years. Our standard unit of measurement really is the kind of the weekly cadence of data all the way through, so it can begin to get the models to chew through things. That is quite difficult to get data for certain elements of the non-media side of things. But we've been working significantly hard for over the past couple of years just to try and getting better data sounds like a particularly inarticulate way of saying it, but it is kind of the base of what we need to get to. And I think we're happier now with the standard, with the cadence, the frequency, the quality of the data we have across experiential, advocacy, POS, and PR. So we can begin to understand not only what we spend on these things, but also where they are, how they hit the consumer, how the consumer kind of sees them. And that's something that we're still working on, but we're gradually going to a stage where you have a significant portion of your non-media A&P much better represented to allow modeling to take place. It's not the only thing we do, but modeling certainly to allow us to look at ROI, to look at the interdependency of the various things we do at the time. We're very interested in stacked analysis of the ways in which media and activation in the on-trade can work together. So you need to have better data to allow you to do that. But it is true. I think it is true to say that in the non-media side of things, we have less data to play with. But actually, you could also argue that you probably have too much data on a millisecond by millisecond basis on the digital channels to actually make any sense of things, to enable you to actually to get some sense out of it, to enable you to make better decisions.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I guess that you have to be kind of pretty imaginative also in the way in which you collect the data that you need, or define the data that you need, and then go about collecting it from whatever source and through whatever means. I mean, how do you actually go about joining these things together? I mean, you mentioned one or two things there, like PR, experiential, and so on. I mean, when you put a plan together that combines these different channels, I mean, what sort of rules do you follow, or how do you put these things together to make sense of it all?
Well, as I said previously, we're looking to try and get some form of weekly measure of exposure. So therefore, for something like advocacy, that's relatively easy to get to as long as you set up a process for gathering the data, because you have individuals going out there Monday through Sunday. So the number of bars you go to, the type of conversation you have, some kind of quality development. Because what we found, certainly when we originally looked at some of the experiential and activation parts is how many bars did you go to? And there was a number of bars which would say, I'll make it up, say 106 per week. But actually that didn't really express the type of depth of conversation that you're having. So it was a mere number. Then you begin to get into qualitative aspects of what the type of conversation you're with. So that's the advocacy side. For experiential, then there'd be a combination of the number of people who actually went to the event, the activation certainly online in terms of the PR activation, and then anything we've got from any ad hoc research we did just in terms of a general sense of positivity about it. So you can begin to add things together. A lot of it's about setting up internal structures and disciplines to capture the data. It's not that the data isn't available. It's that we're not capturing it. Yeah. And also we need to find a way of capturing it in such a way that's operational for the organization. If a salesperson has 15 minutes in a bar, he or she is not going to spend another 5 minutes gathering data. So you have to have something which is realistic and pragmatic for the individuals who have a number of other things to do, as well as talking to the bar owner. They've got to kind of look at the shelf space we may have, or whether we have some of the brands on rails in terms of the kind of the gin of choice or the whiskey of choice, et cetera, et cetera. So it's having an aspiration, but also understanding how to operationalize that within something that's already existing, where you've got a limited amount of time for the individuals to capture that data. So it's a little bit horses for courses, but it's about making sure that you gradually build things up over a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, just moving away a little bit from the drinks business. I mean, you and I have been around quite a long time, and I've been around quite a long time.
So have I by now.
Yes. But I mean, ever since, I'm sure we can both remember, ever since then, there's been much talk about total communications planning and how we've got to move away from paid for media, and it's not just advertising, it's all these other media forms and communication forms. I mean, do you see the industry progressing along a path that sort of helps people make these decisions to combine these different channels, or are we just as far away as we ever were, do you think?
We're not as far away as we once were with things like touch points in the UK, which I think is a great beacon, but there isn't a lot beyond that I'm aware of. And certainly one of the biggest challenges we have is that each individual platform has its own measurement systems to promote itself, and each one is exactly the same. And what we're charged to do, and I think what we're certainly entering the conversations with our agencies about, is how do we move forward in enabling us to have proper video neutral planning? Just for instance, just in one area, how do you properly put together an audiovisual campaign across the various platforms in terms of it's not just attribution of the effectiveness of it. It's purely and simply, let's build reach across the various platforms in such a way that we're not over duplicating. We're getting the formats right. We understand how the different platforms, for instance, work in terms of the type of message, the type of format, and that is something that is an open question for us. And I think you may have raised this in one of your recent COG blogs, just in terms of the role of advertisers in driving this. And I agree with the great Bernard Lawson. At the end of the day, we're paying for it all anyway, primarily. So those who pay the piper call the tune, but they need to call the tune.
Yeah,
I don't think we've really done that as a collective yet. And it is certainly something that I would have thought, I don't know, we won't go back too far into black and white before color, but I would have thought that we might have answered these questions a bit more quickly than we have done. It's still an area that I think collectively we haven't embraced as much as we should, especially given the amounts of money on various platforms and the need to, with the growth of connected TV, not the death of linear TV, but the repurposing of linear TV, because it's still around us and it's still a very effective medium, but how to bring those together in a combined fashion to put together a justifiable and robustly calculated reach curve. And I don't say that with any embarrassment at all. I think reach is, especially at OnePlus, or unduplicated reach is still massively important for mass market campaigns when they need to move things quickly and have scale. So it's a challenge for us, a challenge that we're entering into, and we have entered into for a number of years, but I don't see us getting to a solution yet. And that cannot be something that an advertiser on its own can do.
No.
That cannot be something that advertisers on their own can do. It has to be something that we do collectively across the agency, advertiser, and media owner, straight platform, straight data provider network.
Yeah. Well, Kester, it's a great pleasure to talk to somebody who's, often in these interviews, we talk to people who are obviously using advertising as the sort of key vehicle for whatever it is they're doing. And obviously advertising is important to Bacardi, but so are many other things as well. And it's very refreshing to hear someone talk so coherently about other communication forms and other channels than just advertising. So thanks very much indeed for joining us to
My
make
pleasure.
sense of it all.
My pleasure, Brian. Great to see you.